If you ship software for a living, here's a 2025 twist. Your most reliable teammate might be a browser robot, guided by an AI. And for a lot of teams, that robot speaks Playwright. Let's make this tangible. Picture a Tuesday stand-up. Yesterday's build failed because of flaky UI tests. The login spinner didn't settle. The cookie banner blocked a button, and half your time went to reruns and screenshots. Today, an agent reads your release notes, spins up Playwright, runs the critical user paths across Chrome and Safari, opens tickets with crisp traces, and even drafts the fix steps. You still make the decisions. But the heavy lifting? Automated. So let's slow that down for a second. What changed isn't just more automation. It's that two waves converged this year. Playwright quietly became the default choice for end-to-end testing. And Agentic AI, tools that plan steps and use software on your behalf, moved from flashy demos into day-to-day workflows. In other words, automation stopped being a cost-saving add-on and started acting like core infrastructure. Here's the thing. When quality work becomes part of the pipeline itself, everything downstream feels lighter. Fewer handoffs, faster feedback, and less mental overhead. That's the payoff teams are feeling right now. Now, what actually happened in late 2025? A few moments crystallized the trend. Google introduced Workspace Studio, natural language agents that can string together tasks across Gmail, Drive, and Chat, and connect into tools like Jira or Salesforce. You describe the workflow, the agent orchestrates it. No big scripts, no glue code. At the same time, community surveys showed Playwright's usage surging. Reports put it around 45% of respondents, well ahead of Selenium, which sits near the low 20s, and ahead of Cypress as well. The signal is clear, the center of gravity shifted, and quality work is moving into DevOps more broadly. By 2024, over half of teams reported tighter testing integration with their pipelines, and that momentum carried into 2025. Open source automation also got a boost. Platforms like N8N crossed hundreds of thousands of users, with many companies choosing to self-host for privacy and control. Let that sink in for a second. AI workflows getting easier, a testing tool that people actually like using, and an org-level push to bake quality into the pipeline. So how does this work under the hood, without drowning in jargon? Start with Agentic AI. Think of it as an AI that can do more than chat. You give it a goal in plain English. Verify checkout works for logged-in users across browsers, then update the release ticket. The agent breaks that into steps, calls tools, and adapts if something goes off script. That might mean controlling a browser, calling an API, reading a spreadsheet, or posting results to Slack. The magic isn't that it's perfect, it's that it can carry momentum across tools. In other words, you're not writing all the glue anymore. You're describing the intent, and the system assembles the plumbing. Now layer in Playwright. It's an open-source tool for automating browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Safari's engine, WebKit. The headline features are practical. It auto-waits for elements to be ready, which reduces flaky tests. The same test can run across multiple browsers without special casing, and it records traces, timelines of every click, network call, and screenshot. So debugging feels like rewinding a movie instead of reading tea leaves. There's API testing in the same tool, so your UI and backend checks live side by side. Here's what actually matters here. Playwright minimizes the little things that usually waste your time. Waits, selectors, environmental hiccups, and gives you clarity when something breaks. There's a cultural shift happening alongside the tooling. People call it shift right, which sounds like a stunt, but it's simple. You still test before release, but you also watch the live system in production. Think real user monitoring, feature flags, canary releases, and chaos testing. You use what you learn from real traffic to prioritize your regression tests. If only 3% of users ever touch a path, maybe that test runs nightly, not on every commit. If 60% of users hit the checkout path, that test lives at the front of the line. So let's slow that down again. The goal isn't more tests, it's better signal. You want the few tests that truly reflect user reality to be rock solid and fast. There's one more piece, low code. Analysts have been predicting that a big share of new apps and automations would come from low-code tools by 2025. The spirit of that shows up in testing too. Drag and drop flows, plain English step builders, and recorders that spit out stable Playwright code. The point isn't to replace engineers, it's to let a product manager or QA lead model a happy path while the engineering team hardens it and brings it into the pipeline. In other words, more people can move the work forward without a handoff bottleneck. So why does this matter in practical terms? First, speed. When agents handle browser setup, data seeding, and cross-browser runs, writing a test feels like writing the behavior you care about. Teams report that authoring and stabilizing tests can become meaningfully faster, sometimes twice as fast in early phases, because there's less boilerplate to fight. Second, stability. Playwright's auto-weighting, consistent selectors, and trace tools cut flakiness, so you waste fewer cycles on false alarms. That also means easier onboarding. New folks can open a test trace and see exactly what happened, without tribal knowledge. Third, focus. With DevOps integration, tests run at the right time with the right coverage. Instead of a 3-hour nightly suite, a targeted set runs per pull request, and broader suites run on a schedule or when specific areas change. The result is faster, more trusted feedback. And there's a leadership angle. Tool sprawl used to be the norm. One tool for UI tests, another for APIs, a third for monitoring. Consolidation on a modern platform reduces cost, yes, but more importantly, it reduces cognitive load. People know where to look, and the signals line up. This is where people get surprised. The biggest gains aren't always in the test code. They're in the hours you don't spend coordinating between 5 systems or arguing with a brittle CI step. Now, let's keep it honest. There are risks and trade-offs. Agentic AI can still make confident mistakes. It might click the wrong submit when there are 2 on the page or misunderstand a business rule. Human oversight remains essential, especially when the agent creates or edits tests. Low code helps, but it can also create spaghetti tests if governance is loose. A simple guideline helps. Domain experts sketch the path, engineers review and refactor for reliability, and everything lands in source control with code review. Vendor lock-in is a fair concern. Unifying tools on one platform simplifies life, but you'll want export options and open formats. That's one reason open source tools and self-hosted options are getting attention, especially in privacy-sensitive industries. Of course, self-hosting adds operational overhead. Someone has to patch and scale it. And for teams deep in Selenium with huge legacy suites, migration isn't trivial. The upside, cleaner, faster, less flaky tests, can be worth it. The cost is real, so most teams move gradually, starting with the most painful paths. Where is this heading? A few signals are worth watching. AI agents that orchestrate across your stack, code, tests, release notes, monitoring, without feeling magical or brittle. The human stays in charge. The agent carries the momentum. Model portfolios, mixing open and closed AI models based on task, privacy, and cost, becoming normal, not controversial. End-to-end platforms absorbing more surface area, performance snapshots, accessibility checks, even basic security tests, folded into the same pipeline and reports. Edge and on-device automation for fast local checks, useful when latency or data residency matters. If you're exploring this space, here's what stands out. Start with 1 or 2 critical user journeys. Checkout, login, a core dashboard. Make them rock solid across browsers. It's amazing how much confidence that buys. Use traces and recordings. The fastest way to deflake a test is to see exactly what it saw. Keep the human in the loop for AI-generated steps. Treat the agent like a junior teammate. Great at repetition, less great at nuance. Think platform, not point tools. UI, API, and monitoring signals work best when they're in one place. Decide early where you care about privacy. If compliance is strict, a self-hosted or hybrid approach might be worth the extra effort. So let's recap the big ideas before we wrap. Automation flipped from a cost-saving accessory to a pillar of the modern stack. Agentic AI lowered the barrier to building useful workflows. You describe, it assembles. Playwright's rise isn't a fad. It's a response to real pain. Flakiness, cross-browser gaps, and slow debugging. Quality moved into the pipeline. Shift right means you learn from production, but you still catch problems before users do. Low-code broadened who can contribute. More hands on the work, fewer bottlenecks. In other words, the boring parts of testing got smoother, the signals got clearer, and teams got their time back. A few practical takeaways if this applies to your work. If you're picking a starting point, choose a flaky, high-traffic flow and rebuild it in Playwright with traces on. Track how often it fails before and after. If you're curious about agentic workflows, try a safe, low-stakes task. Generate test data, triage logs, or draft release notes. See where the AI helps and where it needs guardrails. If your stack feels fragmented, map where UI, API, and monitoring data live. Consolidating the reports can be half the battle. If privacy matters, pilot a self-hosted automation node for sensitive tests, with cloud for everything else. A hybrid can balance control and convenience. Here's the bottom line. In December 2025, the winners aren't the flashiest tools. They're the ones that reduce cognitive load and remove busy work. The ones that make quality feel routine, not heroic. Agentic AI helps you describe the outcome. Playwright helps you prove it works across real browsers. Together, they make automation feel less like a side project and more like the backbone of how software ships. Thanks for spending time with this. If you found it useful, a like and subscribe helps us keep making these videos.